Well, I was interested in all of this project. It was sort of born from the fact of that I've always worked in rehabilitation. I've worked with injured people. In the police force, I was also their personal fitness trainer. So I learnt everything to do with the body before I then learnt everything to do with the mind. And then I realised there was a big piece everyone was leaving out of the medical equation, which was the relationship everything had in working together, like the mind-body link. There's much more. And understanding that we have a blueprint in our brain, and that blueprint is what ends up manifesting physically. So to change what's going on physically is often a band-aid approach, because then some new condition is often created. And this is where, medicine I often see is a knee-jerk reaction. Like you have an incident or an injury, a trauma, it's addressed that trauma. However, a lot of them don't come out of the blue, like especially many of these chronic conditions. They've come over a period of time. So I'd certainly love to see that a pattern interrupt is done much earlier in the person's whole being, the relationship of the whole person being looked at in order to create a different result, which in this case is better health. I can see the use of the invisible influence being made into a technology available for use in a broad spectrum of areas, including hospitals and hospices, with terminally ill, as well as at the outset of disease instead of at the end of disease, in order to calibrate a human being towards health. So there's no limit for its use or application for the user, because the downside, as we've said, is health. And it is best case scenario, fabulous health. Worst case scenario is some hope and some optimism, which we know hope and optimism has its own benefits that starts the ball rolling into greater well-being anyway. I choose to work with war veterans and with emergency services personnel because I relate really well with them in having had my own experiences as a policewoman for quite a period of time, as well as in tsunami disasters where I myself was personally left disengaged from humanity, I guess. Today they'd probably call it post-traumatic stress disorder. And they are going to be a key focus for this initiative at the beginning. The reason why is they're our first line of defence, and I'd like to be their first line of support in a way that is non-medical and non-invasive, that they can have free to use. There's no huge expenses, and unfortunately when people reach a chronic stage in any lack of health, they're ready to pay big bucks, and there's those people in this industry that prey on that. And I will be very happy to take that away from them and put healing in the hands of those who need it most. My qualifications to initiate this research and human development and wellbeing initiative is the fact that I've been on this planet for almost half a decade. That's quite generous, more like half a century. And in doing so, I've experienced a great deal. I've been a policewoman investigator over 16 years. I ran my own rehabilitation and health industry, worked with the chronically injured to get them back into the workplace. And at the same time, I have always been interested and fascinated by an invisible influence that heals. I've also personally experienced for myself that invisible influence, and I use the term invisible influence for all the things that we can't see, we can't touch, we can't feel, yet still exists and has a very real effect on us as human beings. And I understand today with science is using a lot of these energies to measure and to quantify. However, they're not being used to unify, and that's what I'd love to see realised. I've certainly been affected personally by the invisible influence. When I returned from Aceh, I'd actually contracted cholera and was unaware of this, and was discovered in Kuala Lumpur in air-conditioned comfort. However, I had a nasty after effect that was ongoing, some bugs, I guess for want of a better word, that I picked up in Aceh, that I had a healer work on me and instantly resolved a situation that had been ongoing for 6 weeks solid. I've also used this same healer using nothing other than distance healing to cure my son of several chronic conditions. So I personally have had my own experience. I'm also well aware of some other people's experience, and that's the purpose of this project, is to come from an investigative point of view of where we tend to prove or tend to disprove the validity of many such claims. And I'm aware there is technology that is available, and to be able to film it, record it, to be able to nut it down so that everyone can understand it, and at the end of the day to be more aware that there's much more available in this universe and in our own bodies that have an ability to heal that we can tap into to help get out of our own way of the problems we may be causing our own body. The purpose of the crowdfunding project and raising enough money for the first stage of development is to be able to film in San Diego, film in Brazil, and film in China. There are several masters, as well as those that have created other documentaries and other films. At the moment, there was one recording, which I believe is still available on YouTube, of a woman who had had a bladder cancer that was cured in under 4 minutes, and it was filmed live. The tumour was there, shown clearly on ultrasound, and 3 monks were present, creating a frequency or a vibration that the woman received, and in live streaming time they're able to observe her tumour shrinking and disappearing completely. So there's more than just that one case, and I guess being able to raise the funds to be able to go to those locations, talk to the masters themselves directly, and that way it's direct evidence from an investigator's point of view, and be able to collaborate it into a nutted down project for the next step, which is creating the pilot series. And the pilot series will then be, hopefully, I'd love to see National Geographic or Discovery. They're two of my favourites that certainly promote programs along this line of increasing awareness and raising information of what's available for people to take care of themselves better living in the world we live today. The money for this that's raised for this crowdfunding project for this first round is simply to cover airfares to get to the 3 locations from Australia of Brazil, China, as well as the USA, San Diego, and to cover for the filming crews and the editing process after the fact. So once that's been completed, everyone will receive updates and information along the way, because I'm quite sure everyone wants to be aware of who we get to speak to and who we get to film, and the information that we collect and gather, as well as any technology we can access along the way that I know has great effects, is the first thing that we're going to be sharing via the website, Heroes for Heroes. Yes, with the crowdfunding project, we have got some rewards available. Those rewards will include actual products they can receive, such as maybe t-shirts or caps, things along those lines, or their name in credit at the end result, having realised this project fully, as well as being able to access the actual products along the way, the neurotherapeutics, anything that's downloadable and easy for them to be able to receive. I'm also interested in hearing from people that would love to sponsor or be a bigger part of this project, that have got access to resources, because we will be travelling and flying, to varied locations, as well as using, many different resources in those countries themselves. So I've got a global database as it is, and I've got some good connections that have stepped forward, so I'm looking forward to hearing from more. Yeah, currently I have on board with the project some groups in the US who work in personal protection, and they certainly have experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. I've got a university that's been supporting and endorsing this project right from the start. I'd love to see Virgin get involved, because we're going to be doing a great deal of travel, and being an entrepreneur, I certainly love Richard Branson's spirit. I'd also love to see Vodafone or any form of connection company, because this is about people getting connected. As I said, I already have a global database. I have a film crew in LA, as well as the use of a film crew here in Australia. And in Brazil, I have One Connection, having spoken on radio there. However, I'm quite well aware that they've got a good database to get me the other connections I need within Brazil. There's also one in Australia. And in China, I've got some good networks already established in order to see realised the end results of this project. Yes, in the future, as this project is quite visionary and futuristic at the moment, I'd love to see realised all the products being available, as we call them, neurotherapeutics, available for download as an app or at the website, which is heroesforheroes.com, and all available free, most importantly, that it's free.